I don't care what broke us up. We know that we weren't good together.
Things have taken a dark turn for Kody Brown, and this time the internet isn't holding back. For years, viewers watched him parade around like a self-appointed king, barking orders at women and children as if his word were law. But the mask slipped the moment he tossed aside the people he claimed to love, trading in loyalty for a younger woman drowning in $30,000 of debt and already raising 3 kids of her own. He abandoned his first wife, crowned this new partner as his queen, adopted her children, and acted like it was a fairy tale ending. But fans never forgot. They waited, almost patiently, for the day when karma would finally come crashing down. From the beginning, it was obvious. Kody never truly cared about building a family. What mattered most was feeding his ego under the spotlight. And now, fittingly, he's jumped headfirst into another circus, a new reality show called Special Forces. A teaser clip just dropped, showing Kody lacing up for a boxing match. Of course, he strutted in like an athlete, still clinging to the fantasy that he was some kind of legendary sportsman. Yes, he wrestled in high school, even made it to the Wyoming State Tournament. But let's be real, his school was tiny, the competition weak. Compare that to his son Hunter, who battled through the brutal Las Vegas circuit and actually won state. Kody, meanwhile, built his whole identity on a small division title. Now fast forward nearly 60 years of age, and he's foolishly stepping into the ring with men half his age, built stronger, faster, sharper. The teaser doesn't even reveal his opponent clearly, just someone taller, broader, and undeniably tougher. And the result? Kody pummeled into humiliation. This is the same man who has spent years insisting he's 5'10" when everyone knows he's barely 5'8". At Isabel's graduation, he literally stood on tiptoes just to look taller. Watching him crumble in the ring wasn't just entertainment, it was poetic justice. And of course, only Kody would have the audacity to sign up for a show build, to mimic military training, conveniently ignoring the painful irony that 2 of his own sons actually serve in the armed forces, sons he barely even acknowledges. Instead of standing behind them, he's busy chasing cameras, desperate to prove he's tougher than anyone else. When the clip went viral, I headed straight to his Instagram to gauge the reaction. And the fans? Brutal. Comment after comment called out the hypocrisy. For years, Kody claimed Robyn's kids couldn't survive a single weekend without him. Yet here he is, happily leaving them behind to film a reality show.
With was Robyn.
And I think that I just have to respectfully go, have a good life. Via con Dios.
The backlash against Kody Brown didn't stop with the humiliating teaser clip. In fact, the internet seemed to have been waiting for this exact moment to unload years of pent-up frustration. Fans and critics alike flooded comment sections reminding him of all the times he abandoned his own children, times when his priorities were on full display. They pointed out the brutal irony. Here was a father who couldn't be bothered to show up for his daughter's critical surgery, yet somehow always managed to clear his schedule for a friend's wedding, or now, conveniently, to appear on a flashy reality competition. The hypocrisy practically wrote itself, and the internet feasted on it. The reminders stung because they resurfaced old wounds. Viewers brought up the memory of him downplaying his family responsibilities during the CO outbreak. Who could forget the dramatics when he whined that a mild 99er fever nearly killed him? His words, dripping with paranoia, became instant memes. The one thing I've been wanting to keep from happening is have the virus go through our family like wildfire. Yet, while he scolded others, Christine dared to travel, Janelle's sons dared to have social lives, and suddenly Kody claimed he couldn't risk being around them. Instead of leaning into fatherhood during a crisis, he built a wall of excuses that separated him even further from his own household. Janelle herself admitted it plainly. Kody's presence during CO was rare, almost non-existent. Fans never forgot that. And now they were connecting the dots between the man who vanished during his family's most vulnerable times and the same man gleefully signing up for televised boot camp. The comments became merciless. Some said his Special Forces appearance only confirmed what they had always suspected. Kody was never in this for love, never in this for family, but for the fame, the money, and the chance to see his name trending. He didn't want to be a father, he wanted to be a celebrity. Others mocked him with sharp humor. They joked about Robyn's infamous eyebrows, calling them her personal shield against men whenever Kody was away. Some laughed at the absurdity of a man who once claimed kidney pain kept him from basic activities, now risking his health in front of cameras for a paycheck. The irony dripped off every sarcastic remark. If he couldn't endure a few nights in an RV without throwing tantrums, how was he supposed to survive military-style training? And then came the criticism of the show itself. Military families and veterans weighed in, furious at the way real sacrifice was being trivialized for television. Comment after comment explained that this wasn't genuine training, it was reality TV wrapped in camouflage. The participants were surrounded by cameras, directors, and medical staff, safety nets at every turn. A real soldier doesn't get a medic rushing in at the first sign of distress, but here were washed-up reality stars pretending to play soldier for entertainment value. To many, it felt insulting. While countless families endure real deployments, real fear, and real loss, Special Forces turned it into a spectacle where people like Kody Brown could play hero for clout. The contrast between his on-screen performance and his real-life neglect of his sons who actually serve in the armed forces was enough to make viewers sick. But perhaps the most devastating blows came in the form of numbers, the kind that don't lie. Social media statistics laid Kody bare for the world to see. His ex-wives, the women he had belittled, abandoned, or betrayed, each boasted Instagram followings in the millions. Christine, Janelle, even Mary, all had massive platforms that eclipsed his own. Kody, meanwhile, sat at a measly 185,000 followers, and his latest post about the show scraped together only a few hundred likes. For someone who had always seen himself as the star, the numbers revealed the truth. The audience had moved on. The women he discarded had become the real stars, and he was nothing more than a supporting character in his own downfall. This contrast only fueled fan outrage. They began rehashing his infamous lines about independent relationships and accountability. Who could forget the way he twisted words during arguments, insisting, "Everybody wants to make me accountable, but I think everybody else is being accountable." His deflections became legendary for all the wrong reasons. Fans repeated them sarcastically under his posts, turning his gaslighting phrases into punchlines. His attempts to sound wise only highlighted his inability to take responsibility for anything, whether it was his fractured family, his failed marriages, or his own reputation spiraling down. And as the days passed, the discourse only grew harsher. Fans resurfaced clips of him yelling at Christine, ignoring Janelle, and minimizing Mary's pain. They stitched those moments side by side with his new Special Forces promo, painting a BEE portrait of a man desperate to escape his own legacy by reinventing himself as something he never was. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Here was Kody, grasping at relevance, trying to outlast the women who left him, yet those very women were thriving, independent, loved by fans, embraced by new opportunities. Christine was happily remarried, Janelle was building her own community, and even Mary, once humiliated, was reclaiming her voice. Meanwhile, Kody was willingly getting punched in the face on national television, just to prove he was still worth watching. The online community didn't hold back in pointing out the tragedy disguised as comedy. They called it poetic justice. They called it karma. And they called it the moment Kody Brown finally faced the reality he had been running from his entire life, that without control, without manipulation, and without a household of wives to command, he was simply ordinary. And worse than ordinary, he was unwanted. Kody Brown's words often circle back to the same excuse. "I think everybody else is being accountable." He repeats it like a shield, as though pushing the responsibility onto everyone else will absolve him of decades of failure. He insists his wives were accountable when they walked away, when they finally said, "I can't do this anymore. I have to leave." But what he doesn't acknowledge is that their departures weren't about shirking responsibility. They were about survival. Christine, Janelle, and Mary reached breaking points where the only way to protect themselves and their children was to step away from the man who consistently put his ego above their well-being. Now, with sister wives winding down, it's painfully obvious that Kody is scrambling to stay relevant. For years, TLC handed him steady paychecks, but instead of building security, he burned through money like gasoline on a fire. The $2 million mansion he and Robin purchased came with a mortgage so heavy, it practically shackled them. Add to that Robin's reputation as a compulsive shopper, and fans have often speculated that the family's finances are a crumbling house of cards. The money flows out faster than it comes in, and Kody knows it. That desperation explains everything. The new show, the humiliating boxing clips, the staged emotional breakdowns. He isn't chasing growth, he's chasing cash. The irony runs deep. When Sister Wives first launched, the family's pitch to TLC was that they wanted to prove they weren't like Warren Jeffs and the infamous polygamists, whose names had become synonymous with abuse. They wanted to show the world that plural, marriage could be wholesome, even inspirational. But as the years unraveled, it became increasingly clear that Kody's vision wasn't about faith or family, it was about fame. He relished the spotlight, relished the power, relished being the star of his own household-turned-reality series. Signing onto Special Forces only cements that narrative. It's not about growth, healing, or proving himself as a father. It's about staying on camera at any cost. Even if he gets beaten bloody on screen, it won't undo the years of damage. Fans don't care to see Kody cry in a boxing ring. They wanted him to cry when Isabel lay in a hospital bed waiting for her father to show up. They wanted tears. When his sons begged for love and attention, when Gabriel broke down on national television because his own father had forgotten his birthday. Those were the moments that called for accountability, remorse, humanity. Instead, Kody delivers rehearsed emotion on a fake battlefield, trying to act like a warrior while ignoring the true wars he lost at home. His arguments with his wives remain some of the most gut-wrenching scenes in Sister Wives history. Fans remember him lashing out, spitting cruel lines that exposed his resentment. "She's treated you like dirt from the very beginning," he raged, projecting his anger outward instead of inwards. He admitted bitterness over Christine, over the other wives, over the kids, all while crying about a metaphorical knife in the kidneys. He claimed to have sacrificed everything to love them, but the sacrifices he described were hollow, built around control rather than genuine partnership. To many viewers, those scenes revealed the real Kody, not a misunderstood father, but a man enraged that he could no longer control the narrative. The bigger issue extends beyond Kody himself. Reality TV has a troubling pattern of rewarding bad behavior. Here's a man who often reminded fans that by living in polygamy, he was technically a criminal under the law. He wore that label of outlaw like a badge, weaving it into his persona. Yet despite years of selfishness, favoritism, and outright neglect, networks continue to hand him platforms. He hasn't been arrested, but in the court of public opinion, his reputation is already convicted. So why is he being gifted yet another series? The question haunts fans who wonder whether reality, television has lost its moral compass altogether. And that brings us to the real takeaway. Do viewers even want this anymore? Do they want to watch Kody Brown humiliated on screen, or are they simply exhausted by him? For years, fans tuned in for the wives, their strength, their resilience, their ability to find independence in the shadow of a man who never truly valued them. Christine's bold exit became a cultural moment. Janelle's fierce independence inspired thousands. Even Mary, long considered the most tragic figure, has begun carving out her own path. Meanwhile, Kody clings desperately to the last scraps of fame, boxing strangers in a manufactured battlefield, trying to prove he still matters. But in the end, humiliation doesn't equal redemption. Audiences aren't looking for Kody to be punched in the face. They wanted him to face the consequences of his own choices. They wanted accountability in the form of apologies, real apologies, not staged tears or dramatic metaphors. They wanted a father who showed up, a husband who valued his wives, a man who could recognize when the spotlight had become more important than the family standing behind him. Instead, all they got was a performance, louder, emptier, and more desperate with every passing year.